Hey guys, question for you. Have you ever lost a chess game that you should have won? This is Brian Castro for Better Chess Trading, and I think we all have in our chess careers. And in this game, I uh, win a game that I am winning. That makes sense. And I want to give you a little advice and tips on what to do when you are ahead or you have the advantage. So enjoy the game and my analysis. Okay, let's get started here and start out with my typical d4. And my opponent plays the Dutch defense f5, which is a fine defense overall. Not as popular, but made more popular by top GMs like Magnus Carlsen, our world champion, as well as a top American or one of the top Americans, Hikaru Nakamura, plays quite a sharp version of this. Anyways, knight to f3 and knight to f6 is played. E3 and b6. So a lot of times I've seen on the opposite side with white when the bird's opening, which is kind of the reverse of the Dutch with f4, this b3 move. But I haven't seen it as much here with black. Typically, black will um, go for either to Leningrad, where he develops his bishop here, or more of the classical, where he'll develop his bishop here, or maybe set up a stone wall with b5. But b6 isn't a bad move, and he's planning to develop this bishop here, sometimes exchanging this bishop here. Okay, bishop to e2, and really I'm just preparing to castle here. Bishop to b7, and I castle, and e6. So one of the decisions here that I was thinking about was how to develop my queen side. Sometimes when black plays this d5 with a stone wall, then I'll use a plan where I play b3 and then exchange these dark square bishops because this dark square bishop is a good bishop in that formation. However, with the bishop on b7, it's probably unlikely that he'll do that. So I'll actually play b3 here, and this is kind of flexible because if he does for some reason go for that, I can still use that plan. But if he doesn't, I can grab space here with c4 and then develop my bishop either to b2 or to a3 later. Okay, he plays bishop to e7 and c4. Um, so just a little background. My opponent here is actually rated quite a bit below me, around 1200. And um, so I think he's not as experienced with this opening as we'll see. And he makes some errors. And so one of the ideas why I wanted to show you this game, well, it's actually quite an interesting um, game, but sometimes I notice with players, especially lower rated players, is that when they already won material, um, how do they proceed? And so I wanted to show you this game, show you how I did it, as well as some general thoughts about how to go about that. Okay, so let's keep going here. My opponent castles. So far, so good. And queen to c2. And my idea here is that um, I want to develop my knight and cover this e4 square. Now, if he plays something like bishop to e4, I wasn't worried about that because I felt that this square was best for the knight. And so if he puts his bishop here, I could just move my queen uh, to, say, d2. And uh, this knight is a little, I would say, misplaced. And then I could bring my knight in. So I wasn't worried about that too much. Okay, he plays d6. So this is one of the plans in the Dutch too, is to prepare this e5 move. Okay, but now that he's played d6, we'll notice that e6 is now a little weak, and this is coming up here as his first mistake. So I play knight to c3, and then now he plays knight b to d7, and I hope you can see now that this 6 square is ripe for the taking because now he doesn't have any pieces that can defend it. So I played knight to g5, and already I'm winning, at least winning a pawn here, but also this knight, as you'll see, is very strong. Plays queen to e8, and here before I snap this up, I just wanted to double check here because he will. I was anticipating his next move, which is queen to g6. So I took here, queen to g6. Now, of course, if I play something silly like taking the rook, then I get checkmated here on g2. But I had seen this already, and I had a couple ways to go about it. I was thinking I could play f3, but I actually liked what I played in the game, which is d5. The only reason I hesitated to play d5 is because now black has the e5 square. But I figure I have an extra pawn, and this knight is incredibly strong. I have my own threats as well, here on c7, for example. Okay, my opponent plays rook f to c8, moving his rook here from so that I don't take it and win the exchange. One thing about that, though, is now that I've won a pawn, winning this exchange isn't as big a deal because this knight actually, as you can see, is much more uh, powerful at the moment than his rook. So I don't want to trade that. So sometimes we have general, and we'll see this a little bit later in the game where I decline winning more material in order to build up my attack. Um, Especially once you have an advantage, you have to general material counts don't matter as much, or you can play around with it depending on your situation. Okay, so now let me go back here. The idea here was now this pawn is weak because this queen is blocking this pawn, and so because of this, I can go ahead and play bishop to d3. Now here, a couple ideas. My opponent can try blocking up the position here, but again, I'll probably just win more material. But I was thinking he was going to try to counterattack here with c6 to try to open this up. Because now this bishop very penned in here, not doing anything. Okay, my opponent plays queen to h6, getting out of this pin, and I guess go ahead and take it. Okay, so now you can see this area around the king getting a little uh, crowded, and this queen here is starting to run out of room. Okay, so he plays knight to e5. So he grabs this square, and now because I'm up two pawns, the next thing you want to do, and I think I mentioned this on other videos, is just make sure that your opponent doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve. So you want to check for potential checks. So here he's got this check on f3, and I actually spent a little time looking at this position because I wanted to make sure that um, he didn't have a way to somehow draw the game with this queen here doing some type of perpetual check on my king. I thought it was pretty quickly. I thought it was unlikely because I have so much firepower here covering squares for this queen to go. But uh, in a situation, especially when you're playing with clocks, and you have a time limit, you want to just make sure that you're safe. Especially when you have a material advantage already, just solidify your position. So in some of these moves I'm going to make here are not necessarily the most, if you put it into a computer, the most accurate, but when you're up by so much material already, uh, really more important to play safely, make sure that there's no way for your opponent to get any counterplay or get back into the game. Okay, so with that in mind, just play knight to f4 here, revealing this attack here on this rook. Um, I'm considering, it's a good attack. It kind of distracts him, but also brings this knight back. I kind of wanted to cover this g2 square in case he tried any shenanigans there. Say with like this check and taking here. Again, practically he doesn't have any options um, because of all my pieces in the area as well. I'm also looking at this g5, g4 square for his knight to hop onto. But again, checkmate is easily avoided, but I just wanted to make sure that I was safe. Okay, queen to g5. Now he's starting this check here. Again, probably won't lead to anything, but we want to be on the safe side. I put a little in between move here, bishop to e6 check. Um, and just to show you here, I was thinking here I could just take this, but um, and even though this is winning, there's really nothing going on here. He can check me here. Not much happening there. But I didn't want him to bring his bishop back in. So yeah, I didn't want him to bring another piece back in. I just got this check in here. Uh, Locks this guy down. The reason why I did that, well, part of the reason why I did that was to get this bishop out because I'm planning to move my queen over to cover the f3. Okay, king to h8. Now queen to e2, covering the f3 square. And again, the computer wouldn't put this maybe as the best move, but I'm already up. My opponent's the one who needs to create something. I want to play safely. I do want to press forward eventually, but I don't need to do it right away. Okay, rook to f8, trying to bring this rook back in and also getting it out, getting it to safety here. And now I start to get my other pieces into the game. So when you're in a position like this where you're solid and you know you're safe, now you want to activate all of your pieces, try to bring them into the game. So I play e4. And this pawn, of course, is protected by my knight, but now bishop is eyeing his queen. So he plays his queen to h4. And now he's thinking again maybe of trying to get something on g4, but I've got enough defenders there. But I think he's just trying to get his queen to safety. Uh, not Actually, there are no other safe squares. Of course, you can't go to h6. Can't go to g6. Can't go to h5. And can't take anything. So it only goes to the only square that's not going to get a discovered attack, h4. But I push him back with g3. Now he plays queen to h6. And here, just take a little move. I'm seeing now everything that's happening here. I want to get my knight back over here potentially, but I just go ahead and bring this bishop back here now that I have this pawn to protect it. And I'm planning on hopping somewhere with this knight. Okay, g5. So he's giving his queen an escape square here, so they don't play something like knight to g6 check and win his queen. But I go ahead and pin this pawn here, attacking it twice. Now he finally tries to get this bishop back into the game, but it's too late here. Bishop takes g5, attacking his queen. Now there are no safe squares to go to. So he tries to go here to h5 because it's protected by the knight. But maybe you guys can pause it if you want and see if you can find my final move here. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, well, I finished off the game. My opponent resigned after I played bishop takes f6 check. Now, of course, if he takes that bishop back, then I win queen. So my opponent resigned here, and um, it wasn't necessarily a super difficult game, but it was, you always have to, you can't underestimate your opponents. Uh, and I saw him playing earlier in the tournament. He was playing very tough against some higher rated players. So I really didn't want to underestimate him. But here in this game, actually, I found it very interesting because kind of piled on each other. I won a pawn, then I started to activate my pieces. I won another pawn, and then he found, because of his awkward development, that his queen kind of got caught out there, and I was able to get my. As you can see, I got my pieces all into the game, or most of them at least. And something interesting you might notice here is that my opponent didn't capture any of my pieces here. I've got all my pawns, both my knights, uh, both of my bishops, and my rooks. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But again, that's not a big deal here. Um, but you just want to be careful. In any case, enjoyable game for me, and hopefully you found it interesting as well. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press the like button, and I hope you found it helpful. What I'm going to be doing for this video is uploading the PGN file on my Patreon page, which I just started recently. The upload will be free, so you can download the PGN file and play it on Skid or Chessbase or whatever you use. And I have a fairly detailed analysis of this game and commentary. Some of it included in the video, and some of it is additional. So check that out. The link is in the description. And if you're new to the channel, I upload videos weekly, and the goal here is to help you improve your chess. Games like this, where I analyze my own games that I feel are instructive. I also analyze master games and give tips based on science about training, as well as doing reviews of products and software that I think might be able to help you with your chess. So if that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing, and hope to see you in future videos.